Ever wanted tips from FPL's world number one? Yes, please. Welcome to the Gianni YouTube show. Hope you guys are well. We're doing things a little bit differently today. We're going to be talking to world number one in FPL, Mr. Tom Hadley. And Tom has been in and around that top 100 for at least half the season so far. And this season has been a little bit different. Sure, he's shown pedigree in the past and he's finished with consecutive top 100k finishes. I think he had 3 in a row, but nothing quite like this. So how has he got to world number one? And what are his tips for the run-in? Well, let's find out. Tom, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for everyone that's watching and hitting those likes and subscribe buttons. But Tom, unbelievable season to date. It feels like no matter where you finish, you're going to have your best season ever. How are you doing? And thank you for joining this show as your YouTube debut.
Thanks for having me. No, it's been crazy because obviously I've been quietly just making ground on the top 10 sort of thing, and then all of a sudden, last few days, got to first, joined on Twitter, and it's kind of been a bit surreal for me.
I can imagine. Like so going back to was it the Foden hat trick around game week 31? Was that the difference maker that got you to world number one?
Yeah. So everyone had Haaland, and obviously he missed out, and I didn't have Haaland, but I had Foden who played in that game, so it was like a double whammy for me up the top. So that was the one. I mean, I was taking quite a bit of a gamble without him, and it kind of paid off.
Well, we both benefited there from Foden, which was nice. You more than me. But look, let's get on with your 5 tips for the running, because this is really interesting. You're going to give us a bit of an insight into to your thinking, which is awesome to have. So your tip number 1 is to think about playing your own game, to not worry about the fear of missing out, and to try and cut off the noise on Twitter, and don't be afraid to make your own gambles and make your own decisions. Tell us a little bit about that.
Every year that the community on Twitter, especially, it's getting bigger with fantasy football, and everyone wants to read about it and everyone wants to interact, and it's brilliant. There's lots of good information, spreadsheets, stuff out there, but it's so easy to get absorbed by it and feel like if everyone on Twitter seems to be transferring a player in, you're going to be the one missing out if you don't do it, and you feel like you're going to lose millions of ranks. But it's not always the case. Like the minority of Twitter is just like compared to the actual game. And at the end of the day, it's like try to make a decision based on your team, not everyone else's team. And I think at this stage of the season, when you're chasing, say you're chasing in a mini league or whatever, don't be afraid to go against the grain, especially with captains. I think that's quite a big swing right there. And although like in the season you try and play it safe or anything, but at this stage of the season, why not just go for it? Like it can be a big difference. Like those point swings. Say someone scores twice and then a popular captain doesn't. It's like 20 odd points difference just from one player.
Yeah, captaincy is just a major part of the game, isn't it? So have you been a little bit differential with your choices this season? Is that fair to say? And obviously you're open to being differential with those captaincy choices for the run-in, or?
I think it's a different game when you're the one that everyone's chasing. I think my
just
job
11 million others,
My job is to try and stick to some of those trends. It's hard. Sometimes the best captains is the obvious one.
Yeah, so obvious for a reason.
It's for a reason, but they don't always work out. I mean, Salah against Sheffield the other week, literally 1 point, and everyone captaining. So it wasn't a loss for me because the whole world seemed to captain him. But imagine if you were chasing and you just captained someone else, like you captained Foden. that's like 40 points, and Salah got 2. So obviously it's a big risk if Salah didn't pay off. I'm not saying go against Salah in that week, but that's the sort of scenario where you've got nothing to lose and you're chasing. Why not spice it up with the captaincy?
Yeah, I really like that. Like, how can you make that 38-point gap usually, where you really struggle through your 11 picks, but through captaincy you can, and that's what gets you to that position.
That's the reason where you do that. There's not much time left, so you're not really missing out that much if you're far off anyway. If you're far off the pace or you have these aspirations, you may as well start to think about gambling towards the end of the season.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Okay, so look, tip number one, all around FOMO. We've heard that before from managers that have won FPL. Ali Hangrov last year, I remember him saying to me, like, the big thing for him was always play your own game. Don't try and let too many other voices change your opinion. If you're backing X, back X. Don't change to Y just because everyone else on Twitter's doing it. Okay, look, tip number two, I really like. It's all about planning ahead, and especially around the doubles. So we know the state of play at the moment. We know 34 is going to be a big double. We know there's doubles in 36, but also 37 is going to be a big double. Like, that's pretty set in stone. So with that in mind, planning ahead and looking ahead to your transfers is another big tip for you. Like, looking ahead at different scenarios in where you'll be come game week 36 and what moves you'll make. Now, sure, things happen. We get injured players and we get different players coming in and out of form, and those plans might have to change, and we should always be flexible, but you like to plan ahead.
When you've got quite a lot of season left, I try not to think too far ahead, because in fantasy football, loads of things can change. But because we're so close to the end of the season right now, there's only a few weeks left. I think it's important to prepare what you're going to do, especially with the doubles. We've got two big double weeks, and then some smaller ones coming up. I think it's quite easy to set a plan, a rough guideline, to make sure you don't miss out on some of the options that's going to come up in those weeks. And I think if you don't plan ahead, then you're really kind of trying to wing it against people that have planned ahead. So make sure you're planning, make sure you're along with it, because at this point in the season, you don't have to think past 38 anymore. You don't have to think long term. If you've got a wild card left, you're going to be using it soon. So I'm factoring that in my plans, because I've got my wild card left and the bench boost. So I'm trying to figure out when's the best time for me to use it. When's the best time to, maximize? Because when you've got a wild card, you can sort of rip up the team a little bit before you use it as well. So that's part of the planning.
The dead ending strategy. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you about when you're using your chips, because I don't think you should tell me, because I want you to have I don't want you to give away 1% to anyone else in terms of access to information, because conscious that you're probably the only person in the top 10 that's doing a video here, or certainly having that online presence with teams. So we won't go into your chip strategy, but that's really good to know, and that planning has got you this far. And definitely being smart with the chips is always key. Look, number three, we've got about being attacking. You don't win FPL by playing template football or management. You don't win FPL by having all the same players as everyone else. You win FPL by often being quite aggressive. So at number three, it's don't be afraid to attack each game week and to be aggressive. Tell us a little bit about that, especially around even those double game weeks. Like, being aggressive doesn't mean necessarily stacking up on double game week, because it could mean that a single game week player, a good single game week player like a Haaland, might be better than a bad doubler, for example, a Bournemouth defender. So tell us a little bit about that and being attacking each game week.
Yeah, I think that's important. People get blindsided by all these doubles, two fixtures. I mean, generally, like, two fixtures is a good thing, obviously. But as we saw in the previous double game weeks, how bad was that one where, Liverpool had a few injuries, and then everyone seemed to outscore him with, like, Saka and Watkins, who only had 1 week. So I think it's important that a good asset in a single game week can be way better than some of the bad doubles. So don't get too caught in the trap of, overloading your team with all the doubles. I think it's good to have, obviously Arsenal and Liverpool double. So in 34. So I think that's obviously they're good assets on their own. So that's not a bad strategy. But yeah, I think attacking the week. So don't be afraid to take hits. I think there's this idea that hits are a bad thing. How do you keep taking hits all the time? I didn't take a hit for a while this season, but then I took a few, in short succession when my team needs it. When my team needs it, the hit can really pay off, and it might not pay off straight away, but the investment's there. And when you're attacking these game weeks towards the end of the season, like, your team might not be, well, it might just be 2 transfers, 3 transfers away from being really aggressive for that week. And, just a -4 or -8 might be really pivotal. It could be a big swing for you. And I think towards the end of the season as well, there's not much time left. So why not just have a bit of fun with it? You know,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be enjoyed. I mean, I'm not enjoying it loads at the minute. It's quite stressful, but
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, it's a game, isn't it? Everyone's supposed to enjoy it, and I think now's the time. Why not just take some hits or put some players in that you might not ordinarily put in throughout the season, because there's not much time left for them to be in your team anyway. So just just have a bit of fun with it.
I like that, Tom. I like that very much. Like, games have to be fun, and sometimes we forget that with FPL. Now,
Yeah.
no matter who you are, if you're in and around that top 10, you're going to be more nervous than having enjoyment from the game. But that's, of course, to be expected. But for the masses out there, for me, for you guys watching, yeah, have fun with it. And if you need to take a hit and be aggressive just because you feel that there, then go do that. Okay, let's have a look at number 4 and 5 of your top tips then. Guys, please do feel free to hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel and make sure you're doing that with notifications, but also make sure you're following at Power Shower on Twitter. Tom is now vocal on social as well, so do give Tom a follow. Let's have a look at number 4. So tip number 4 is all around being wary with rotation. We've seen in recent weeks alone some big names missing out, Haaland, Foden, Saka, whether it's players doubtful because of injury, where managers are maybe less likely to risk them because they've got every game is so important, or just with fixture congestion, especially for those teams involved in Europe, those midweek fixtures are going to start taking its toll. So to be wary of rotation. Now, how do we prepare for that, Tom? Is it a case of building your bench? Is it a case of picking players that aren't involved in Europe? How do you look at that in terms of the fear of rotation?
I think it depends how you want to weigh it up. So obviously, you don't want a team full of risky assets, that are prone to rotation, especially in some teams that rotate more than others, like City. And they've got a double. They'll likely have a double coming up towards the end of the season. So it's worth bearing in mind, especially with the fact that they're in quite a lot of they're in Europe still. And obviously, it's hard to predict what the manager's going to do. You don't have a crystal ball or anything, but I just think be wary. So some teams like Arsenal, they've been very consistently playing the same team pretty much every week. So that even when they've got Europe, there's a likeliness is that a lot of players tend to play every game. There's a few that get rotated. So just be mindful that, have a look on the past, see that Arsenal play the 2 centre-backs every single game, bar like the start of the season. And, players like Saka, they kind of just get they get run down by these matches. But that it's pretty safe, that he's very rarely going to get rotated unless he's injured. I just be noteworthy about it. I think there's also worth bearing in mind towards the very end of the season when you got the big double. Some of these teams might have thrown in the towel for the season. They might be not playing for anything. They might be hovering around mid-table, and they might start to change the team up a bit. And looking for the next season. So just be wary that have a little look round. To see what the manager's saying, if he's looking to rotate. Just be noticing these little things. They might throw hints in little certain places. Obviously, you can't predict everything, but the manager might suggest that they're going to give a few of the younger lads a chance towards the end of the season. So
we have seen that before, haven't we? Come game week 37, 38, when the teams that have nothing to play for that can just go, I'm going to give debuts to 5 of those kids.
And it's little things like that sometimes help. You might overthink it too much. You're just like, I don't want to put him in because he might get rotated, and then he'll end up playing one of the games and score a hat trick or something. You can't predict everything, but I'm just saying it's worth considering, because obviously it could be quite an important couple of game weeks, especially for me, myself. I've got to be thinking about all these things when it comes to the end of the season, if I'm up there still. So,
yeah. Will you be put off by some of those teams with nothing to play for? The mid-table mediocrity teams, the Wolves, the Fulham, will they put you off a tad? Or at the same time, is there positives to those teams because you go, oh, they're playing with freedom now. They haven't got the fear of relegation over their head, and they can come out and express themselves, because sometimes it can have that effect. But again, sometimes it's, oh, they're on the beach, let's avoid them.
Well, sometimes where one player isn't played as much, another one comes in and could be a good asset in his own right. As we've seen with the injuries at Wolves, for instance, like Aït-Nouri has been playing basically up front for them.
Yeah.
So certain things can arise.
Benitez at Fulham, like
Yeah.
given his chance because of
Yeah.
the Jimenez injury, and it's like,
So
oh yeah, you're
it's not
amazing.
necessarily a bad thing if they're not playing, because Wolves are one of them. I don't think they can get Europe now. It's pretty outstretched for them, and they're not going to get relegated. So that's one thing I am slightly wary of with them. But they'll want to finish strong in the season, and they've got a lot of young lads that they have been playing quite a lot recently, mainly because of injuries. We saw it the other day. I'll definitely be considering, especially towards those last 2 weeks. I think we've still got a few weeks left before they start rotating heavily. So it's mainly 37, 38 that I'm got my eye on, especially when I'm planning for it.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Yeah, both of us just bought Aït-Nouri in. You have Sarabia too, so yeah, nice.
Well, that could have been so much better as well. That when it started off so well.
I know, nice combination. Okay, let's have a look at goal number 5 then. This is all about setting yourself goals, setting yourself targets, whether that's week by week targets or targets from now to the end of the season. But achievable goals for you are something which, you know, can help FPL managers, because sometimes we get a bit blindsided. Like we want the world and it's unrealistic, and then we're disappointed when we don't get that amazing score. But if you get 7 green arrows between now and the end of the season, and even if they're all small green arrows, that's one hell of a rank increase from now till when. So setting yourself those achievable goals, you're pretty big on. I mean, your goal is a bit different to ours.
Well, obviously, I try not to think too much about it, but yeah. But if you're someone that's, you know, not really within a chance of winning your mini league or whatever, you're kind of a bit done with the season, take another look at it. Think, all right, this is where I can actually enjoy the game. It looks like I've got nothing to play for now, so I can just start setting myself targets. You know, have fun with it. Try and achieve a finish. You know, set yourself. You know, be a bit different with your team, especially with these doubles. It's a great time to have a bit of fun with the game, and it stands you in good stead. You know, if you even if you like 3 millionth rank and you say, right, I want to try and get at least 2.5 before the end of the season, 2 mil. It's not impossible, because there's a lot of things can happen. If you decide that you've done that between now and then, you could go in next season thinking, all right, I'm coming off the back of a good finish, and I really enjoyed the game. You might enjoy the game more now than you have ever in the season. You know, when you started dropping the ranks or whatever, you might have a lot more fun with the game, and I think that's important, especially.
So true. Yeah, no, I think that's good. It's something I'm definitely going to be doing for the run-in. Tom, thank you so much for sharing those top 5 tips. Many will be thinking, oh, I want to see Tom's team. So if you want to see Tom's team, then firstly, go follow him on Twitter. But secondly, if you stay tuned to my team selection video later this week, I'm also, as part of that team selection video, also going to be showing Tom's team selection as well. So stay tuned for that and make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Tom, for now, thank you so much for making your YouTube debut on this channel. I hope to check in with you later in the season as well. Let's see how you get on. Thank you so much for coming on, mate.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate. Do make sure you're engaging and following Tom on Twitter. Also, let me know in the comments if you've got any questions for me or Tom, and I will see you very soon. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.